Hello students, hope so you are doing well. Let's start with our new topic, that is polysaccharides. So one sentence about polysaccharide is that all polysaccharides are non-reducing in nature, and all the monosaccharides are reducing, and some oligosaccharides are also reducing, and some oligosaccharides are non-reducing, and the polysaccharides, all polysaccharides are non-reducing. Let's start with the reading with the basic features. Actually, polysaccharides are tasteless, and they are not soluble in water, and they are only sparingly soluble in water, only in the hot water, and they are not soluble in the cold water. Let's start with the reading. Polysaccharides are most complex and most abundant carbohydrates in nature. They are usually branched and tasteless. They are formed by several monosaccharide units linked back like quadratic linkage. Polysaccharides have high molecular weights and are only sparingly soluble in water, only in hot water. Some biologically important polysaccharides are starch, glycogen, cellulose, dextrin, agar, pectin, chitin. And what is starch? Starch is a polysaccharide and it is found in the fruits, grains, seeds, and tubers. Actually, the main storage in plants is done with the help of or in the form of starch. The storage form of plants is actually starch, and the transport form is the sucrose in plants. It is the main source of carbohydrates for animals on hydrolysis. Actually, all polysaccharides on hydrolysis give glucose subunits. So, on hydrolysis, it yields glucose molecules. Starch are of two types, amylose and amylopectin. Actually, what is meant by amylose and amylopectin? Amylose and amylopectin are nothing except these are the just two types of the starch. Amylose is the non-branching starch, and amylopectin is a branching starch. And amylose are soluble in hot water, but amylopectin are insoluble in hot and cold both water. So amylose starch have unbranched chain of glucose and are soluble in hot water. Amylopectin starch have branched chains and are insoluble in hot and cold water. Starch when reacts with iodine, and the test that is used for the distinguish of polysaccharide is called the iodine test. Actually, there are two types of bonds that are present, two different bonds that are present in amylose and amylopectin. Actually, in amylose, amylo contains the alpha 1,4 linkage. What is meant by alpha 1,4 linkage? Actually, these are two types of isomers. One is the alpha and one is the beta. If the OH group is present on the top of the specific carbon, that will be the alpha, and if the carbon OH attached to the bottom of the carbon, it is called the beta carbon. So amylose contain alpha 1,4 linkage, just 1,4 linkage, and amylopectin contain alpha 1,4 and 1,6 both type of linkage. Actually, these both types are present. Amylopectin is similar to somewhat starch, but starch has more branching than the amylopectin, or sorry, glycogen. Amylopectin some similarity of glycogen, and glycogen has more branching than the amylopectin, that is type of starch. And the color with the iodine, what was the color? Blue color was with the iodine. That shows the starch is polysaccharide. Next, that is glycogen, and as we discussed earlier, the glycogen contains both alpha 1,4 and alpha 1,6 linkage, that is somewhat like to the amylopectin, that is type of starch, but difference is glycogen has more branching than the starch. So glycogen also known as the animal starch, and in liver, especially in human body or in animal body, in liver and muscle, the storage is occurred in the form of glycogen. The if we had more carbohydrates, and they will accumulate in our body in the form of glycogen, and if the plants have more starch after fertilization, after fertilization and after photosynthesis, if they have more food in the form of glucose, and they will store in into the form of course, in the form of starch. It is also an animal starch. It is a chief form of carbohydrate stored in the animal body. It is found abundantly in liver and muscles, though found in all animal cells. It is insoluble in water, just like amylopectin, and gives red color with iodine. The main distinguished feature of the starch with the glycogen is that when we react it with the iodine, and the color with the starch will be the blue, and with the glycogen will be the red. It also yields the glucose on hydrolysis. All polysaccharides that are comprised of glucose will, of course, on hydrolysis will give glucose subunits. And the after is the cellulose. Actually, the major carbohydrate that is present in the cell wall of every plant cell, and you can say that it is very very important, and it does not react with iodine. Cellulose, let's start with the reading. It is the most abundant carbohydrate in nature. That is very important MCQ. Most abundant carbohydrate is cellulose. Cotton is a pure form of cellulose. It is a main constituent of the cell wall of the plants and highly insoluble in water. General feature was all polysaccharides are insoluble in water, but the exception is amylose are the only polysaccharide that are soluble in hot water. On hydrolysis, it also yields glucose molecules. It is not digested in human digestive tract because we have or animals lack the cellulase enzyme. The enzyme that is used to digest the cellulose is called the cellulase, and it is absent. And in the herbivores, it is digested because of microorganisms like bacteria, yeast, protozoa in their digestive tract. These microorganisms secrete enzyme called cellulase for its digestion. Cellulose give no color with the iodine because it does not react with iodine, and the main linkage is the that is present in the cellulose. That is very important MCQ. Beta 1,4 linkage. Beta means, as already mentioned, that if the on the bottom side of the carbon the OH will be attached, it will call the beta. And alpha means if the top of the carbon of the any carbohydrate in the solution form, especially or in the ring form, carbon on the top of carbon, if OH is attached, it is called the alpha, and if it is attached to the bottom, it will be the beta 1,4 linkage. So three types of polysaccharides are discussed. One is the starch, and second one the glycogen, and after that the cellulose. Starch, the main storage form in the plants, glycogen in the form of in animals, and cellulose is the main constituent of cell wall, and it is not digested by any human body or in animal body because we have not cellulase enzyme. And after that we have discussed that there are two types of the starch, amylose and amylopectin. Amylose unbranched, and amylopectin is branched. And amylose is soluble in hot water, but the amylopectin is insoluble in both. And all types of polysaccharide are insoluble, and starch give blue color with iodine, and the glycogen give red color with iodine. Cellulose does not react with iodine. That was all about the polysaccharides. Thank you very much.